when you are doing spiritual combat, what has been the most challenging exorcism that you've ever done?
Ha, that's an easy one. Okay. This guy, John, he went on YouTube and Googled how to open his third eye.
His third eye?
Third eye. Yeah. It's a Hindu thing.
Is it like connected to that eye that is used in a lot of jewelry? It's a different thing.
Yes, it's like this third eye in this world of metaphysical religion, complexity, spiritual, but ultimately it's demonic. And he was going through this video trying to do what they're saying, and he felt the thing go into him, and he was pretty messed up, but it's still able to function as a human being, and eventually reached out, I think through the diocese, to me. And I met with him, and he was coherent, like he could have a conversation, but over the course of a month, this thing kept growing and getting worse and dragging him down. Eventually, he was fully possessed, and he died 3 times.
He died 3 times?
3 times.
What do you mean?
During his possession. They would bring him drugs. The demon would say, you're going to take drugs today. He goes, I don't want to take any drugs. I don't have any money. Oh, we know people. And then just a guy would show up and hand him a bag of crack and shoot it into him. And he would OD, and eventually he would get taken to the hospital and give a Narcan and come back to life. The third time it happened was actually the day we had scheduled an exorcism with him. He's living in the woods with a community of homeless.
Did he become homeless after the YouTube video?
Yeah.
So within just a short period of time, his life totally unraveled?
6 months.
That's pretty short.
Lost his job, lost his family, lost his girlfriend, lost everything. Now he's living in the woods.
And just to track your, and was this because of erratic behavior that the demon was sort of instigating in him, or was it specifically the drugs? Or
no, the drugs were only at set points when they would bring them to him, and he would have to do them. He couldn't function because they were too present all the time. He'd have very few minutes of lucidity where he was able to communicate and function. So eventually everything just fell apart.
And when you say that, when you, like, let's say you're his employer, you're just noticing him like totally check out, not pay attention.
Check out, not showing up on time, not showing up at all. Eventually it's like, you can't work here. Same with the girlfriend. Just.
Do you think the girlfriend knew that something demonic was happening, or she just thought he turned into a deadbeat?
I don't know. I never met her. But she just at some point said, I've had enough. I'm done. And then he went to a halfway house, and then even there he got kicked out of. Like there was just no way he was going to live anywhere with anybody who was normal, because they were just having a heyday with him. And he had no car at this point either. So like when I had to meet with him for sessions, and I'd bring him to the church, I had to go pick him up. So now I'm like, I have to have somebody with me in the car, because I can't have a possessed person suddenly like reach over the back seat and start choking me as I'm driving the car. So we had to restrain him, and it was just a lot. So the third time I had another exorcist with me, and this is all scheduled, and we go to pick John up from his location in the woods. He's not there. I said, where is John? And they said, oh, he died. They took him away. I said, oh, he died. So I went to the closest hospital to that location, and he's there, and he's in ER, and he's awake. They Narcaned him again. The doctor said to me, we gave him triple what we normally use on somebody who's overdosed. Triple. Like, it's insane how much drugs he had in his system. They wouldn't release him because you have to stay for like an hour before they'll let you go when you have that much drugs in your system. So I'm talking to him, and he goes in and out of lucidity, and eventually the demon shows up. And I was with the other ex, and I said, how does this benefit you by killing him? Because he's not doing anything wrong. His death is not putting him in hell. Why is this good for you? And they said, we just like to torment him. And if it weren't for Michael, he would be dead. And I said, Michael? And he says, yes, Michael sent the League of Angels to bring the paramedics to the woods to find him. Because, who would ever find somebody in the woods anyway? It was a very weird, story. And you can't trust the demons because they lie. But the fact of the matter is, I did want to talk to the EMS crew and say, did you get a call or were you just wandering? Like, how'd you find him? And even the doctor said that when they brought him in, they had very little to say about him. They basically just stumbled upon, they were going past this location and there was a bunch of people they saw in the woods and they saw that there was some kind of they seemed panicked. So they just kind of like, are you okay? And they said, no, this guy is having a problem. And they took him to the hospital. So John did have his exorcism that day.
In the hospital?
No, we took him to the church. We took him to one of the churches, not my church, but one of the Nashville churches. And we cleaned him up. We brought him some clothes. We bought him clothes. We took him there and told him to take a shower and get cleaned up. And then he came out dressed and ready to go. Took him into the church, did the whole exorcism, and he was still not liberated. And that was his maybe fourth or fifth time we did the rite with him. And it was soon after that he was arrested in Alabama for something. I think he was stealing, and he was thrown in prison. And that's the last I ever heard of him. But at least in prison, I knew he was at least getting food and somebody was monitoring his life. But never heard back from him.
Do you think about him?
So every now and then, yeah.
Do people in prison who are possessed, do they have sometimes access to an exorcist? Do prisons do allow clergy sometimes?
Perhaps, but it's unlikely because they would just probably diagnose them with schizophrenia and they put them on drugs, which just completely sedates them and makes them into a zombie.
What do you think? I know we can only guess at the ways of God and we know he's merciful and just and far more merciful than we are, of course. There's no comparison. But when you're faced with that, which is, it's not a success story in like the human calculation of do the exorcism, it's done, it works, the guy's free, goes on to have this beautiful life, the guy's in prison. And it sounds like it wasn't his fault. I mean, I don't know, I can't speak to this with authority, obviously, but it sounds like, he was living a decent life until he became possessed. I guess the YouTube video, that was his fault to do that. That was stupid. But then he got possessed, lost his girlfriend, lost his job, lost his car, lost his shelter, lost everything. And now he's, committing illegal activities, which maybe the devil is prompting. I mean, how do you see the kind of theology at play there of what we believe to be true as Catholics about free will?
It's hard to reconcile it all because, even the phone number I had for him, at some point it was, you call the number, it says number no longer working. So like it literally, he just got cut off completely. And then I heard from somebody else that they heard he was in jail or prison down in Alabama, but it is a sad story, but we don't know how it ends because maybe in prison he got enough grace to finally say, because it really goes back to your will as well. Like the will is so important in these things. Like you have to really want to say like, I want nothing but God.
You want, meaning there's no such thing as someone so possessed that they still can't make an act towards God of their will.
I don't know if I could say that because I have only been doing this for about 6 to 7 years. But I would say you'd have to look into somebody like Monsignor Rossetti or, God bless Gabriel Amorth, who's gone, but these kind of guys would know better. But I do think God always makes a way. Even in prison, there could be a way made because if the person really wants it. The problem with this kid was he was looking for a higher access to power by opening the third eye. So that's where it's idolatry. It's in that. That's the problem. It wasn't the stupid video. It was just that he was seeking for a knowledge that was apart from God. I want this special gift that's going to make me incredibly strong, smart, whatever. And it's not through God. It's separate from God. So that's the thing you'd have to let go of. Say, like, I repent of that. I don't want this anymore. I realized this was wrong. Maybe he found that in jail. I don't know.
Have you seen demonic activity because of things like abortion or sex, immoral sexual activity?
Those are open doors. Of course, those are open doors. Yeah.